France has finally agreed to withdraw all its troops from Niger. It comes in the wake of a fallout between Paris and the military junta following a coup 2 months ago in the West African country. French President Emmanuel Macron took some time to bow to pressure from the new ruling junta. Has he made a strategic mistake? To answer that, we have Olayinka Ajala, Senior Lecturer of Politics and International Relations at Leeds Beckett University, who joins me now. A very good afternoon to you. I mean, you've been exploring the security situation and the rise of insurgency in the Sahel region for over a decade now. What do you make of this? I mean, was the right decision made here?
No, I think it was a strategic mistake. And the mistake did not just start now. It started when France refused to negotiate or have any form of diplomacy with the new junta. We all condemned the coup. Most people from West Africa and the Sahel, researchers, government officials. But I think it was not in the place of France to refuse to talk to a legitimate government of the country. Regardless of how they got there, I think they should have kept a window of diplomacy opened. And that was when the mistake started. So it was inevitable that France had to pull out if they were not willing to work with the new regime.
What negative outcomes will President Emmanuel Macron's decision now have for the region, especially looking at factors like the fight against terrorism?
Yeah, in the short to medium term, it could destabilize the region because many of these military officers have been there for a long time. They understand the topography, they understand the climate, they are used to the climate, and they have the experience of working in the Sahel. So it will take a while to fill this gap, but a lot of analysts, including myself, were hoping that since the U.S. has decided to stay, and with other countries like Germany and Italy still having some troops in the country, it might actually the situation might resolve itself after a while. But in the short to medium term, it could destabilize the fight against terrorism in the region.
So where does this move now leave other major players in Niger, like the European Union? Can it afford to now follow in the same footsteps?
No, they cannot, because it's going to be disastrous for the region and also for Europe as well. Because when you look at the relationship between France and Niger, and then the EU and Niger for a very long time, at least in the last decade, there have been a cordial relationship. It's been like almost a symbiotic relationship, whereby Niger have been helped by these countries and the EU, especially, to fund counterinsurgency and also to stabilize the region. In return, Niger had stemmed the mass flow of illegal immigrants into Libya, who eventually traveled through the Mediterranean into EU. So it's a relationship that's benefited both sides. So I think it would be disastrous for the EU to follow suit. It's at least to an extent, it's okay that the US is still there, but my thinking, or I believe that they should have like an equal partnership with Niger. It shouldn't be a form of an unequal relationship as we've seen before between Niger and France.
The other prominent external actor being that of the United States. What is your view on the US's decision to remain in Niger, especially now considering its relations with Russia? I mean, is there any reading between the lines to be made in that regard?
Absolutely, absolutely. And to the discontent of France, to a very large extent, and they are not happy with the way the US has gone about it, because France expected that the US would support them to put pressure on the junta in order to restore Bazoum. But the US did not do that. The US played a smarter diplomatic game for two reasons. The first one is the US has a very large investment in Niger. They have their largest drone base in Africa right at the center of Niger in Agadez. And they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the last 10 years. They won't just want to walk away and leave these things. And then secondly, there's a geopolitical battle for the soul of the Sahel. The U.S. understands that if France leaves and they follow suit, this will open up Niger to Wagner Group and then potentially to Russia. So the U.S. is playing a kind of an interesting game, trying to maintain their security hold on the Sahel and West Africa, and also trying to ensure that they don't leave any gap to be filled by Wagner Group and Russia.
One will imagine that perhaps the impact here, the withdrawal of French forces, will have a negative impact on the morale of the soldiers themselves. In your view, what do you think France could have done differently here?
I think France could have acted better diplomatically. They should have left open a window of negotiation. Totally disregarding the government of a country is not an excellent diplomatic move, regardless of how they got there. After a week, it was very clear that Bazoum wasn't going to be reinstated. And France also has a lot of economic interest. They are the largest importer of uranium from Niger. So they should have thought about all of these things and opened a window of diplomacy, which was exactly what the U.S. did. The U.S. did not call this a coup because they wanted to maintain that channel of communications. So, and it's a lesson to Western countries, because if Western countries think it's going to be business as usual, unfortunately things have changed. We have a larger, younger population that are very well educated, that are asking questions, that know what is happening. They know the price of uranium in the international market. They are asking questions, and they are putting pressure on their government to deliver. So France should have renegotiated their relationship and learned from what happened in Niger and Burkina Faso. But they missed that opportunity, and if they are going to come back now, it's going to be on the terms of Niger and not on their own terms. And again, they have their economic interest that they still have to negotiate. So closing totally the window of diplomacy was, I think, was a bad move by France.
As more than 400 soldiers stationed near the border with Mali, they'll be the first to leave, possibly starting from today. What happens then? I mean, what does it mean for the gaps as they leave?
I think it's about time for ECOWAS to rethink its strategy and work with this junta, whether they like it or not. Because what happened is, because of the threat of military intervention, Niger had to pull many of their soldiers working in this area to defend the capital in case there was an invasion. So I think ECOWAS needs to lift that cloud of military intervention and be very clear and work with this junta to restore democracy in the shortest period of time, And then secondly, in regards to morale, it will dampen morale to an extent, but we are hoping that this new security alliance will focus, security alliance between Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, will focus more on counterterrorism. But they can't do that except they are absolutely sure that there will be no military intervention. The foreign minister in Nigeria yesterday still insisted that that is still on the table. I think they should stop this rhetoric and work, because when if insurgent groups take over Niger, they will subsequently get to the border of Nigeria and other West African countries. So it's high time all these countries came together to work and understand that the junta will be there, at least in the short term.
Very well. Thank you so much for that analysis. Olayinka Ajala, Senior Lecturer of Politics and International Relations at Leeds Beckett University, joining us there to help make sense of the repercussions.